The second epistle to the Corinthians, commonly known as 2 Corinthians, is one of the letters written by the Apostle Paul to the Christian community in Corinth. This epistle serves as a deeply personal and emotional communication, where Paul addresses various issues, defends his apostleship, and emphasizes the themes of reconciliation, suffering, and the sufficiency of God's grace. Summary of 2 Corinthians 1. Introduction and greetings. Paul introduces himself as the writer of the letter and greets the Corinthian Christians with grace and peace. 2. Paul's defense of his ministry. Paul defends his apostleship against false accusations from some in the Corinthian church who questioned his authority and credentials. He recounts his hardships and sufferings as evidence of his commitment to the gospel. 3. The ministry of reconciliation. Paul emphasizes the theme of reconciliation, stating that God has reconciled humanity to himself through Christ. He urges the Corinthian believers to be reconciled to God and to live as ambassadors of Christ. 4. A call for holiness. Paul exhorts the Corinthian church to live holy and upright lives, separate from the immorality and ungodliness of the world. 5. God's comfort in suffering. Paul shares his personal experience of suffering in God's comfort, reassuring the Corinthians that God's grace is sufficient in all circumstances. 6. The collection for the saints. Paul encourages the Corinthian Christians to contribute to the collection for the poor saints in Jerusalem, emphasizing the principle of giving generously and cheerfully. 7. The boasting of Paul. Paul defends his boasting about his apostolic ministry, declaring that it is not out of pride but to counter false teachers and to demonstrate the authenticity of his ministry. 8. Paul's visions and thorn in the flesh. Paul shares his visions and revelations from the Lord but also speaks of a thorn in the flesh that keeps him humble and reliant on God's strength. 9. Paul's concern for the Corinthians. Paul expresses his deep concern for the spiritual well-being of the Corinthian church, urging them to examine their faith and to turn away from false teachings. 10. The test of authenticity. Paul challenges the Corinthians to examine themselves and test the authenticity of their faith, ensuring that they are truly following Christ. 11. Final exhortations and warnings. Paul gives final exhortations to the Corinthians, encouraging them to live in unity and love. He warns against false apostles and urges them to stand firm in the truth of the gospel. 12. Conclusion and greetings. Paul concludes the letter with greetings and a benediction, expressing his love and desire for the Corinthians to experience the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. Conclusion. The second epistle to the Corinthians is a deeply personal and heartfelt letter from Paul to the Corinthian church. It addresses various issues within the Christian community and emphasizes the themes of reconciliation, suffering, and God's grace. Throughout the letter, Paul defends his apostleship and passionately calls the Corinthian believers to live in holiness, unity, and genuine faith. He urges them to embrace the sufficiency of God's grace, even in times of weakness and suffering. The letter serves as a powerful reminder for all Christians to rely on God's strength, stand firm in the truth of the gospel, and live as ambassadors of Christ's reconciliation to a broken world.